Thanksgiving used to be my favorite holiday, not because of the food or the decorations, but because it was the one day every year my little family would be under one roof again. My son, his wife, their 2 children, and me, the proud grandmother who still ironed her tablecloths and made cranberry sauce from scratch. But last year was different. It started with a text from my daughter-in-law, Claire. "Hey, Mom. We're hosting Thanksgiving this year, but it's just immediate family only. Hope you understand." I stared at my phone for a long time. Immediate family only? I blinked, reread the message, and then reread it again, because last time I checked, I was pretty sure I counted as immediate family. I typed and erased my response 3 times before finally sending, "Of course, honey, I completely understand." Then I put the phone down and sat there in silence, the sound of my old wall clock ticking louder than usual. It wasn't the first time she'd said something like that. For the past few years, Claire had slowly started pushing me out, little things at first, not telling me about the kids' school plays until the night before, forgetting to mention birthdays. "Oh, I thought I sent the invite." And my son, bless him, always tried to smooth things over. "Mom, she's just overwhelmed," he'd say. You know how busy life gets with kids. So I played along. I didn't argue. I didn't make a scene, because that's what we older women learn, to keep peace, to smile, to not make our children uncomfortable. But deep down, something in me broke that day. When Thanksgiving morning came, I woke up to silence. No alarm clocks, no smell of roasted turkey, no sound of little feet running around. Just the hum of my refrigerator and the soft purr of my cat, Lucy. I decided I'd cook anyway. Not the whole spread, just a small meal for myself. A tiny turkey breast, mashed potatoes, a slice of pumpkin pie I'd bought from the bakery. I set the table with 1 plate, 1 fork, 1 napkin. I even lit a candle. Because why not? I might be alone, but I still had myself, and I deserved something warm and pretty. After dinner, I made a cup of tea and opened Facebook, and that's when I saw it. Photo after photo of my son's house, filled with people. Claire's side of the family, her parents, her siblings, cousins, even her coworker, who I'd met once. They were all sitting around my son's table, the one I'd gifted them for their first Thanksgiving as a married couple. And right there, smiling in the center of the photo, was my son, carving the turkey, just like his father used to do. The caption read, "So thankful for family and blessed grateful." I put my phone down and just sat there, numb. Family. The word suddenly felt heavier than ever. I didn't cry. I thought I would, but I didn't. Instead, I just took another sip of my tea and looked out the window at the cold November sky. Then I said softly to myself, "All right, so that's how it is." That night, I wrote in my journal. I wrote about the laughter I could see but not hear, the table I'd set for one, and the realization that sometimes blood isn't enough to keep people close. I also wrote something else, a note to myself. You can't control how people treat you, but you can control what you give them. It wasn't about revenge, not yet, but it was about boundaries, something I'd never learned to hold firm. The next morning, I woke up to a text from Claire. "Hey, hope you had a nice Thanksgiving. By the way, our electric bill didn't go through for some reason. Could you maybe help out again this month? It's just temporary." I stared at the message, a slow smile spreading across my face. Because for years, I'd been quietly paying their bills. The ones that didn't go through. The missed car payment. The extra credit card balance. The new washing machine. I'd never complained because I thought it was helping my family. But suddenly her words, "immediate family only," echoed in my head. And this time I decided to listen. I looked at Claire's text again. "Could you maybe help out again this month? It's just temporary." The kind of temporary that had lasted nearly 5 years. They never asked directly, not at first. It started small, a forgotten bill here, a late payment there. "Mom, we're just short this month," my son would say. Claire's hours got cut, and I'd always help. Because that's what mothers do. I didn't want them to struggle. I wanted my grandchildren to have warm baths and new clothes and lights that stayed on. But that morning, something inside me shifted. It wasn't bitterness, it was clarity. So I texted back, "Of course, dear. I understand completely. Immediate family should handle it." And then I put the phone down and smiled. For the first time in years, I felt free. By noon, my phone buzzed. It was my son. "Mom, did you mean what you texted to Claire?" I called him. His voice was tight, like he'd been arguing before answering. "Of course, sweetheart," I said calmly. "Claire told me Thanksgiving was for immediate family. I assumed that means you're taking care of things between yourselves now. It's only fair." There was silence on the other end, then a heavy sigh. "Mom, you're overreacting." "Am I?" I asked softly. "Because it seems to me I've been paying your temporary bills for half a decade. Maybe it's time you learned what immediate means." He didn't answer. I could hear Claire whispering in the background. Then he said, "Mom, please don't make this difficult. The electric company already called. We'll get late fees." I took a deep breath and said gently, "Then maybe you should call your immediate family." And I hung up. I didn't expect what happened next. An hour later, my phone exploded. 10 missed calls, 5 voicemails, and 2 texts from numbers I didn't even recognize. Claire's mother, her sister, even her cousin, the one who'd posted all those Thanksgiving photos. "Mary, this isn't fair. They have kids, you know. I thought you were better than this." Better than what? Better than standing up for myself? I put my phone on silent and went about my day. I cleaned the kitchen, fed my cat, and made myself a pot of soup. But inside my heart was pounding. Not from fear, but from power. Because for once I wasn't the one apologizing. That evening my best friend Doris called. She's been my neighbor for 30 years, the kind of woman who doesn't mince words. "Mary," she said, "I saw the family's Thanksgiving photos. You okay?" I laughed. "Oh, I'm fine. Just redefining what immediate family means, apparently." Doris chuckled. "About time. You've been too nice to that girl. What happened?" So I told her everything. The text, the photos, the electric bill, and my reply. There was a pause. Then Doris said, "You know what? You did the right thing. Maybe this will finally make them realize who's been keeping their lights on. Literally." I smiled. Maybe. But deep down I wasn't sure. People like Claire rarely realized anything unless you made them see it. That's when a little idea began to form. The next morning I drove down to the bank. I withdrew a modest sum, not everything, but enough to make a statement. Then I stopped by the bakery and ordered something I hadn't in years. A full-sized Thanksgiving cake. On the top, I had them write in elegant frosting, "For immediate family." When the baker asked if it was a joke, I just smiled and said, "Something like that." I brought it home, set it on my kitchen counter, and took a picture of it. The golden script shining beautifully under the light. Then I sent that photo in the family group chat. The caption was simple. "Had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you all for reminding me who my immediate family really is." I pressed send and waited. It didn't take long. My son called first. "Mom, what is this supposed to mean?" "Exactly what it says," I replied calmly. I spent my Thanksgiving surrounded by love, peace, and people who appreciate me, even if that person is just me. "Mom, this isn't fair." "No," I said gently but firmly. "What's unfair is pretending I'm family when you need something, and a stranger when it's inconvenient." He was quiet. Then he said, almost whispering, "Claire's crying." I took a deep breath and replied, "Then maybe it's time she feels a little of what I've felt for years." And I hung up again. That night, I sat on my porch with Lucy on my lap, and the quiet hum of the town around me. I expected to feel guilty. That's what usually happens when you finally stand up for yourself. But instead, I felt peaceful. I looked up at the stars and whispered, "Sometimes, lessons need to sting." Because maybe, just maybe, this was the only way they'd ever learn. I woke up the next morning to silence. No texts, no calls, not even one of those passive-aggressive emojis Claire liked to send. For the first time in a long while, my phone stayed quiet, and peace filled my house. I brewed my coffee, sat by the window, and looked at the leftover cake from last night. It felt symbolic somehow, a celebration of letting go. But by 10 a.m., peace didn't last. The doorbell rang. Once, twice, then again, sharp, impatient presses. When I opened the door, there stood my son. His eyes were tired, his hair messy, and behind him, Claire stood with her arms crossed, her expression somewhere between guilt and anger. "Mom," my son started, "we need to talk." I stepped aside. "Of course. Come in." They walked in, but instead of sitting down, Claire started talking right away. "You embarrassed us," she said, her tone trembling. "Posting that photo, making it sound like we excluded you on purpose." "That's cruel." I blinked slowly. "Cruel?" I repeated. "You told me not to come. You said it was for immediate family. It was supposed to be lighthearted," Claire insisted. "You take everything so seriously." I turned to my son. "Did you think it was lighthearted?" He hesitated. "Mom." "She didn't mean harm. You know how she is." I smiled sadly. "Yes, I do. And that's exactly why I'm done pretending it doesn't hurt." Claire's expression softened, but only slightly. "We didn't mean to make you feel unwanted. But you didn't have to freeze the payments. We had to cancel the trip for the kids because the cards kept declining." I set my cup down slowly. "I'm sorry to hear that, but I didn't freeze anything. I just stopped covering what wasn't mine to pay." Her mouth opened, then closed. My son stared at the floor. For years, I'd paid their bills quietly, always with excuses. "It's just a tough month. The job market's slow. The kids are growing fast." But not once had they said thank you. It had become expected. Like a tax on motherhood. Claire finally sat down. "You don't understand, Mary. The kids were devastated. They wanted their grandma there." I took a deep breath. "Claire, do you even realize how many holidays I've missed because I was too tired from helping you? How many nights I stayed up worrying about whether you'd ever stand on your own? I didn't raise my son to depend on his mother forever." My son looked up then, his voice quiet. "Mom, we weren't trying to use you." "But you did," I said softly. "Every month, every temporary request, every ignored text once I'd helped. That's not family, that's convenience." There was a long silence. Even Claire didn't speak. Then I stood up. "You both have to decide what kind of family you want to be. One that takes, or one that gives. Because I've given all I can." They left without another word. That night, I sat by my fireplace feeling the weight of it all. The peace I'd felt earlier had turned into something deeper. Not sadness exactly, but release. I didn't hate them. I just finally saw them clearly. Still, I couldn't help wondering, would this be the end of us? Or was this just the beginning of something new? Something honest? 2 days later, I got a letter in the mail. It wasn't from my son. It was from my grandson, Ethan. He's only 9. His handwriting was crooked and large. It said, "Grandma, Mommy said you're mad. I hope you're not. I saved you a cookie from Thanksgiving. I miss your mashed potatoes. Can I come see you?" I sat at my kitchen table and cried. Because that's what family should feel like. The next morning, I texted my son. "Tell Ethan he's welcome anytime. I'll make mashed potatoes this weekend. You and Claire are welcome too if you come to talk, not to argue." It took a few hours, but he finally replied. "We'll be there." Saturday came faster than I expected. I cleaned the house, set the table, and made Ethan's favorite chocolate pudding. When they arrived, Ethan ran straight into my arms. "Grandma!" Claire and my son followed more quietly, both looking uneasy. We ate together, small talk, polite smiles. Then, as we cleared the table, my son said softly, "Mom, I've been thinking about what you said." He looked nervous. Claire stayed silent, staring at her plate. "You were right," he continued. "We've been leaning on you too much. I didn't see it that way before. It's just, you always helped. It became normal." I nodded. "I know, sweetheart, but I shouldn't have let it become normal. That was my mistake too." He took my hand. "We've started budgeting. Claire picked up more hours. I'm going to sell the truck. We'll be okay." For the first time in years, I saw a flicker of pride in his eyes. And I realized that maybe, just maybe, all this pain was worth it. When they left that evening, Claire hugged me. It wasn't long or warm, but it was real, and that was enough. After they drove away, I stood by the window, watching the taillights fade. Then I whispered to myself, sometimes love looks like saying no. But the story wasn't quite over yet. Because the following week, just when I thought things had settled, I received one final message. From my ex-husband, the man who hadn't called in over a decade. "Heard you made quite a scene at Thanksgiving. the message read. Guess you finally grew a backbone. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I smiled, typed one line, and hit send. It's called self-respect. You should try it sometime. And just like that, I laughed for the first time in weeks. A few weeks passed after that quiet dinner. I thought things had finally found balance, a fragile peace between me, my son, and Claire. Ethan would call me every few days, always full of stories about school or what he was learning. He'd end each call the same way. Grandma, next Thanksgiving, can you come? I'll make sure you get the first piece of pie. That promise alone made my heart soften again. I thought the storm had passed. But storms, I've learned, have a way of circling back when you least expect them. The unexpected call. It was mid-December when my phone rang. The caller ID said Claire. That was unusual. She never called. Mary, she started, her voice trembling. I don't know what to do. The electric company came again. They said we're 3 months behind. I thought your payments went through automatically. I stopped her right there. Claire, I told you weeks ago I stopped managing your bills. You needed to handle them yourselves. I know, she said quickly, but we've been struggling, and then I found out my hours are being cut. We don't have the money right now. I closed my eyes, inhaled deeply. Claire, this is hard, I understand. But you and Mark have to learn to take care of your own lives. You can't keep calling me only when something falls apart. There was a long silence. Then she whispered, You're right, I didn't know who else to call. Her honesty disarmed me. For the first time, there was no entitlement, no demand, just humility. Let's meet tomorrow, I said softly. At my house. We'll figure this out. Together. A quiet meeting. When they arrived the next day, they looked exhausted. Mark's shoulders were slumped, and Claire's eyes were swollen from crying. I made tea, sat them both down, and pulled out a folder. The same folder I'd used the night I cut off their payments. But this time, it wasn't filled with receipts or account details. It was filled with lessons. I showed them how I budgeted when I was raising Mark alone, how I learned to stretch one paycheck into 2 weeks, how I wrote down every bill and expense in an old spiral notebook. At first, Claire looked defensive, but then as I talked, her posture softened. Mary, she said quietly, I never realized how much you did behind the scenes. We just assumed you had plenty, that it didn't matter. I smiled faintly. That's the problem with love that gives too easily. It teaches others to take too easily. They both nodded. By the end of the afternoon, we'd made a plan. They'd downsize, cancel a few luxuries, and pay off their debts slowly. When they left, Claire hugged me again. But this time it wasn't out of guilt. It was gratitude. The turning point Christmas came a few weeks later. I wasn't expecting much. Maybe a call, maybe a small card. I didn't even decorate the tree. But on Christmas morning, someone knocked on my door. When I opened it, there stood Ethan, grinning from ear to ear, holding a small box wrapped in silver paper. Behind him stood Mark and Claire, smiling nervously. Merry Christmas, Grandma, Ethan shouted, shoving the box into my hands. I opened it, and inside was a single handwritten note. You taught us what family really means. Thank you for loving us enough to say no. Beneath it was a keychain, shaped like a heart, engraved with the words, Immediate Family. I couldn't stop the tears. They came inside, we ate breakfast together, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like an outsider in my own family. I felt seen. 1 year later, Thanksgiving came around again the next year. But this time I was the one hosting. The table was full, not with extravagance, but with sincerity. Laughter that wasn't forced, conversations that didn't sting. Claire helped in the kitchen, humming softly. Mark carved the turkey. Ethan ran around setting napkins and spilling cranberry sauce on his shirt. At one point, Claire raised her glass. To Mary, she said, her voice trembling, for teaching us that love isn't about money, it's about honesty. And for showing me that family isn't who invites you, it's who shows up. Everyone clinked glasses. Even I couldn't stop my eyes from watering. The twist. After dinner, Claire pulled me aside. Mary, she said, I want to show you something. She handed me a folded piece of paper, a bank statement. At first I frowned, confused. Then I saw it. a regular monthly deposit labeled Mom's Trust Fund, Rebuilt. She smiled shyly. Mark insisted we start saving again. For you. For emergencies. For comfort. For family. It's not much yet, but it's honest. And it's ours. For the first time, I was speechless. Then I hugged her, long and hard. Because that was the moment I realized the lesson had landed. That night, as everyone left and the house grew quiet again, I sat by the fire and smiled to myself. I thought about all the years I'd spent giving, all the times I'd mistaken enabling for love, silence for peace. And now, finally, I understood something simple and beautiful. Sometimes the best gift you can give your family isn't your money or your time or your forgiveness. It's your boundaries. Because real love respects them. The next morning, I woke up to a message from my son. It said, "Mom, you were right. The best part of family isn't the help. It's the growth. Thank you for giving us both." And that was when I knew. This time, the lesson would stick. I poured myself a cup of tea, looked out the window at the winter light, and whispered, "Happy Thanksgiving, Mary. You finally got your seat at the table.